Morning, 9 o'clock, Thursday, December 12th, 2024. Here to have a discussion of funding for planning and zoning disaster service vehicles. So I'll turn it over to Dan.
So I don't know, we kind of merged these two and did a lot of the investigation work together, but I'm guessing it's actually two separate decisions, one for each department, and each one has its own little reasons why. So I can treat them separately, but kind of at the same time, we took the bids and the recommendation is going to be the same for both departments. So however you want to split that up and make the decision and make the motion, we'll do that when the time comes. But what we did is we talked through the time here, particularly through the budget season, for planning and zoning purposes. For us to bring on the building official position, we were going to need a vehicle for that position. Certainly an easy understanding that position needs to be able to travel about and do inspections. So it needs a vehicle that can get anywhere. It needs to be in construction sites in most places. And so we need that vehicle for that purpose. The other one for disaster services, the vehicle that is in that inventory is that 2005 Dodge 3/4 ton. It's had a fair amount of, more than its fair amount of mechanical issues. And currently it's got a pretty significant, what's called the death wobble scenario, where if you hit bridge abutments or deviations in the road or potholes in the road, the front suspension tries to overcorrect each side. And so if you don't know what the death wobble is, it's not fun. and when it happens, what'll happen is that, some part of the steering suspension system will break. And when that happens, of course, you'll have an accident. So we've spent a considerable amount of money on suspension and parts trying to fix that problem. It's fixed it for a while, but it kind of seems to creep back. And at this point, the decision is whether or not to spend more money on a 20-year-old vehicle.
How many miles do they have on it?
Fortunately, it only has 109,000, so it's relatively low miles. We have had some engine troubles with that truck. Regarding miles, it was 4 or 5 years ago. Some valve springs broke on it, and we had to go basically through the top end and replace valve springs in the top end part of it, and that was a couple $1,000 worth of work at the time. So it has had some engine work, even though it's a low miles engine. Other than that, the truck's relatively clean for a 20-year-old truck. But and it's a 3/4 ton 2500 Dodge.
Okay.
It was purchased through a Healthcare Coalition grant back in 2006 or 7, and it was purchased with the Mass Casualty Unit trailer that was outfitted, and that was a whole grant program when that vehicle was purchased. And it's just always been the disaster services vehicle, and here it is. So it's just that it's time to be replaced and or decide how much more money you're going to spend on it. To keep it in use. I think it could be used in other departments. It needs some, again, the safety work to it needs to be figured out, or it needs to be surplused and gotten rid of. So replacing that vehicle is a similar situation of being able to respond to scenes and to training, and as a vehicle for that department. So we went out and we sent a bid request out to about 4 different dealerships. 3 of them responded, and we gave them specific vehicle specifications and some of the bid requirements, and they responded to that. And so what we had requested was a mid-sized pickups, trying to fit in with where the dollar amount would be the most efficient, versus something small, like a small vehicle that won't be as easy to get around in. So we went with the small mid-size pickup. They also included some of the full-size, the 1500 version, the half-ton version trucks, because price-wise they're about the same. I don't necessarily need a full-size pickup. The smaller vehicles are easier to get around into spaces and travel with, and obviously a little better gas mileage for long-term use. And so we got bids back from Dave Smith, from Rubido Motors, and from we actually sent one out to Mike White Ford, and just to see what Fords they would come back with, and they came back with some bids for Ranger pickups and also some Bronco that So I have bids for those. The Dave Smith bids, I have both. The Colorado and the Canyon version truck is the mid-sized pickup with a V6 engine, and all of these are comparably sized for engine size and drivetrain, and so that we're making the best attempt to judge apples against apples. So we're not talking about significant differences here. So the Colorados and the Canyons are all unique to the same deal, and they range from 45 to 47,000 total, and then kind of similar on the 1500 version, either Silverado or the Sierra. They're right in that, averaging 45,000 for the 3 different ones they sent over.
Just for clarification, are you talking about a replacement for the Dodge or for the building inspector?
So it's both. So we went out and said, let's just get want the same vehicle, and so we're proposing for one of each.
Will that tow the trailer?
So the trailer, at the moment, it is in our emergency operations plan, and it is in the bylaws for when we originally purchased it, even though we're not held to those bylaws anymore because it was part of the strings that were attached to the grant. So the fire district has taken over the responsibility of delivering that trailer to a scene, which was always going to be the case anyway, unless certainly if whoever the incident commander is, be it the fire chief or the sheriff, if they call me and ask me to bring the trailer out there, we'll go figure out a way. Originally, the project was purchased for the truck to do that, and that was just happenstance that the emergency manager drove that truck around. So I don't need to replace that truck with another 3/4 ton truck. Otherwise, I would need to replace it because I'm going to be responsible to haul that trailer there. It is.
The fire department's decided.
It's going to be a fire department, and honestly, we would lean on Public Works. They all drive 3/4 tonner. You know, we would lean on those folks before we would get to me. It just happened to. When you read the bylaws, it lists me first as the first contact, the emergency manager first, when the reality is during an event, the emergency manager is not a first responder, but he does have to respond to the scene eventually. So with that, we don't need to replace the vehicle with another 3/4 ton or a 1 ton truck. That would be, as it is, that truck's a gas hog.
Yeah, that's right.
And So no, we don't need to replace it for the maneuver of the mass casualty trailer. So that's handled through either the fire department or Public Works. And so we just looked at it as 2 identical vehicles. It was easier to go that route. I don't need anything special for or neither is the other. Neither is the building official. But,
Okay, so the type of vehicle that you have right now for PNC, that type of vehicle will not work for the 2.
we have one that was purchased through a grant process for P&Z for that uses, and then certainly P&Z uses it for posting sites and site inspections for site disturbance, floodplain, also for training and those kinds of things. And it's a small SUV Jeep Compass vehicle.
Okay, so you're in need of a pickup. Both jobs require that?
No, it doesn't necessarily have to be a pickup, but a comparably sized SUV is more expensive. They're in the $50,000 to $60,000 range. So we were trying to keep it to the cheapest available vehicle that would still function for the purpose that it's needed. So certainly, if we wanted to go solicit other bids for an SUV type one, we just initially thought that it would be more expensive. So we went with the cheaper, knowing that the Colorados and the half-ton trucks are the highest sold vehicles, and so they go for, especially on a fleet deal, they go for that.
So we're looking about $100,000. That's what the full.
Correct. Like I said, we did get bids from Rubido Motors for a 1500 or the half-ton truck, and they only sent one, but it was at 40,000 and 39, it's between 39 and 6.
And who were the other 2 bids from?
These were from Dave Smith,
Can I see those for a minute?
Sure. Yeah. Total circled and then they're double.
So who would be
double
driving the SUV thing that you have now? If you get 2 more trucks, who would be driving the SUV?
planning staff. So Trish or myself, if we need to go out on inspection. So the last one there, I think, was it the Bronco? Yeah. So this last one is a Bronco. The newer version of the Bronco. It's an SUV type.
Okay. Oh, I see that.
Where those are the little Ranger pickups. Ford's version of the midsize pickup.
So if I'm reading this one right, it's 27,000 for the vehicle.
Yes.
It's a sizable difference. Different kind of vehicle. 27,000, 28,000, 34,000. And we didn't put anything in the budget for this, right?
We didn't put any specific line items for capital improvements for vehicles. And part of that discussion was because we were going to anticipate moving forward with a grant opportunity rather than trying to tie up money in the budget.
Okay. And where are we on grant opportunities?
So there's, for getting grant funding, you're just going out and finding some. I don't have anything for vehicles, but we do have the LATCF. There is a possibility, after being able to go through the numbers now, depending on when these are purchased, there is some available in the SLFRF, depending on where you guys want to go and the training on getting these budgets.
Some of it as enough to cover both of these vehicles.
So depending on which one you go by, I've heard a couple different numbers, either 27 each or 45 each. I'm not sure where that is. So are we looking at the 60,000 or the 90,000?
Well, if we were going with the low bid, but is the low bid a satisfactory vehicle?
They're comparable. It would be our preference to go with the Chevy or the GMC.
And the Chevy was, how much was the Chevy? It
They
was
range from
46.
46.
45 to 46.
So for the, just from procurement hat, the bids coming back in, and you guys would have a little bit more discussion because we're not 250,000, but we are over 75,000 of those. The bids have been received, so that part's satisfied. It is typically the lowest bid unless there's a justification for cost of ownership, which you can add to those that would go to the higher bid on that. So again, if there's a lower cost of maintenance, if there was some kind of maintenance included in that that's not in the others, the mileage where it's going to cost less for maintenance and fuel down the road, then you would need to go with the lower bid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
And you're saying the lower bid one would work, it's just not your preference?
True. Yes. Then they're comparably sized drivetrains, vehicle towing capacity. Those are comparable vehicles. Historically, our fleet of vehicles has been Dodge or Chevy.
Mm-hmm.
That has a big play in it because we get them serviced wherever they can get serviced, either at Dave Smith or one of our local mechanic shops or even at our public works shops. So.
Mm-hmm.
As a building official, I've been in a couple of inspection spots where I wasn't quite sure I was going to make it up the driveway or out of the driveway, and it's just mud. you know, we're in the snow climate too, you know, and I'm doing all county inspections, so I'm not in town, so a lot of these places aren't necessarily plowed or easily accessible.
Mhm.
So a clearance issue is where I would be at. I mean, I don't really have a preference, but, you know, being able to get me to do these inspections efficiently.
That wouldn't be
It's a use case. I mean, if you're
A use
getting
case.
something that's not going to fit the job, you have to get what fits the job and fits in the price range. So if those have a lower clearance on them and will not satisfy that or are too light of a vehicle, and to Dan's point about maintenance, if we've already got parts and things on hand that are easily used in these
we
in
wouldn't have
specific
we
vehicle,
wouldn't have parts on hand. But
or the accessibility. I mean, some of
Mhm.
the imports, you can't get the parts for them, even just air cleaners and things can be more expensive or harder to get, and so that's part of that consideration. But yeah, the right tool for the job has to be considered in there as well.
The low bid is for I don't know my Fords, but it's a Super Crew all-wheel drive XL. Is that a mid-size pickup?
It's the mid-size pickup with the 4 doors and the 4-seat availability. Which is one of the particulars. They're all the same in that category because they need the ability to haul other people around.
Well, I can appreciate the desire to have a different rig than that, but for us to purchase 2 of them outside of budget, that low bid one looks awfully tempting.
I would agree.
Madam Clerk, you're here today. Did you have some feedback or some input you wanted to share?
No, I'm just listening to this vehicles. I just bought one.
What'd you get? Okay. Well, does that work?
Well, it could, but no, absolutely
I'm
could.
teasing,
But
I'm teasing you.
But in the bid process, you have to tell them,
Yeah,
I want
I know.
X, Y, Z, give me a
Yeah.
bid on X, Y, Z.
Yeah,
So
I'm
we've
just-
limited it to that, but
Yeah,
we
I'm-
could certainly go research some others and see if there's
No,
other,
I was just.
We do have a brand new Equinox sitting out in the
That's
parking
right. That's
lot.
what I was saying.
the pickup versus SUV doesn't matter to me or Bill, I don't think, but, it's the,
Well, for one, I think I'd like to look into it a little bit further myself, and then we can bring it in and make a decision later. I think that would be, since we do have the lower bid, and then see if we can figure out how that would tie in, if we did go to the other one, how it would tie in with the grant, so that we're not kind of.
Well, in most cases, this day and age, you get what you pay for, and we're anticipating long term. Like, this is not like, you need a new vehicle every year. This is going to be, as long as that vehicle can, maintain its maintenance and its mechanical abilities.
Yeah.
We like to keep it as long as we can.
Yeah. And I don't think we've really had any. We do have one Chevy Colorado or S10 or.
we've got certain has some smaller, the old PZ vehicle
Yeah.
that maintenance uses now, and then there was a
Okay.
dog catcher vehicle at one point.
You're saying you'd like more time?
Yeah. Yeah, I'd like to
Okay.
more time.
So is there some direction we can go and get more information or a different, what information do you need as far as taking more time and we can go search?
Well, what I'm going to do is I'll just look into the look into the Ford and see we haven't had them up here, so we don't know anything about them, whether they're good or not, or, it'd be kind of nice to look in to see if they have any problems. And same with the Colorado.
Want a little time to research the
Yeah, a
bids.
little research a little bit. And
Okay. In that case, let me open it to public comment because we've got to wrap up in a couple minutes.
The only thing I have to say is that, Dan, you might look at where the roads department got their trucks at Coleman. They got a full 3/4 ton double cab for $45,000. The other one I want to say is You got 2 bids from Dave Smith. It's only been a few months ago. We had the department come in here and say they didn't want to do any more government vehicles. I'm surprised we got 2 bids, so.
That's right, I remember that. Okay.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
Anything else from P and Z right now, or?
We sent out bids to, I can't think of the name, Chipman something, or the one in Pullman.
Oh, you did?
And
Okay.
they just didn't respond. So,
Okay.
we sent it up, and I'm trying to think if there was another one. I wanna say there was another one.
And Chipman is the one that does the Sourcewell, right?
I'd have to look at, that's not a familiar name for Sourcewell.
I'm trying to
I'd have to
think.
look at that, but we're okay to not have to go Sourcewell. I mean,
But
yeah,
weren't
we've
they
already gotten
Sourcewell, I
bids.
thought?
No, they did the 3 bids.
Oh, okay.
Chipman Taylor. That was
Yeah.
the name.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing that
Okay,
on the state procurement or the other bidding that we could do that off of.
okay.
Okay,
All right.
well then with that, we're going to hold this issue over, a little bit of research, and we'll bring it back up, next week?
Yeah, next week.
Does that work?
And if you need us to chase any information for you,
Okay.
tell me what you need.
Yeah, I'm just gonna kind of look at it and see what,
Is the height for all of those?
Yeah.
I didn't see all of them. So yeah, I mean, when we get back to the office, I'll look into those and see. Yeah, I'll let you guys know.
Okay, with that, we are adjourned.